AMD is poised to explode. Just like I told you, it was likely to happen. CNBC analysts confirmed this, and also that it's a much better buy for a growth opportunity than NVIDIA, because NVIDIA already has a majority market share, if not almost all of it. So there's nowhere else to go for NVIDIA except down as far as market share. That doesn't mean the growth isn't going to be good. It just means that AMD has a lot more to gain than NVIDIA in the coming months and years, and a lot of very good information has come out on AMD. So let's take a listen to the CNBC analysts together and react to what's going on. I told you guys that AMD would be a great opportunity. It broke out of a downward spiral and a downward trend from March of 24 all the way into May of 25. It officially broke out of that trend, and there is a lot of good information and news and a lot of good data coming out of AMD, and there's a lot of growth potential. Let's take a listen to what was said on CNBC and react to everything that's going on, and I'll break it down for you exactly what's happening with AMD and why it is a good buying opportunity.
AMD really just threw down the gauntlet against NVIDIA today with its MI400 AI chips, which are set to ship next year. These chips are stacked into massive server rack called Helios. Think hundreds of processors that work as one giant brain. This matters because AI companies need exactly this kind of hyperscale setup to train their large language models. AMD's betting it can also undercut NVIDIA in terms of price as well as power consumption, with executives promising, quote, aggressive pricing, although they didn't share the actual numbers in terms of cost. The company also claims its new hardware beats NVIDIA on offerings for AI inference, which is the part where trained models actually answer questions and generate responses. CEO Lisa Su just spoke with our John Ford just within the last hour or so about the major partners on board. Listen in.
Before we listen to what they're going to say next, I want to point out this is not the first time that AMD has undercut another tech company by being more power efficient. They've done it as recent as 2018, 2019, right before the pandemic, when they released their 5900, 5800, 5700, and 5600 CPUs, as well as their very famous 5950X Ryzen processors. All the Ryzen processors, and the high-end ones especially, had more efficiency on power consumption than the Intel Core i9 processors did. In fact, the 10900K and KS, 11900K and KS were far behind in energy efficiency versus the 5950X, the 7950X, and of course the newer Ryzen processors. I've used all of them. I build PCs, and I can tell you that as far as energy efficiency, the Ryzen processors are definitely better than Intel. The Intel CPUs are power hogs. The PC I'm using right now is a 13900 KS, and I have a new Ryzen CPU in my other PC, and it definitely uses less power consumption. So this is not the first time AMD has done this. Efficiency is a big part of technology, and if they can capitalize on what they did on CPUs and work that into AI like they're doing now and be more efficient and have equal or more power, there's more growth potential here because they have less market share. So there's a lot of potential on the horizon for AMD.
If you look today, 7 out of the top 10, model builders and AI companies are using AMD products. That includes Meta, Oracle, OpenAI. Sam Altman was here with us today. Meta and Oracle were here. XAI, Tesla, to name a few.
Despite that, though, AMD's share price stock really hasn't gone anywhere in the last year. Down almost 2% versus NVIDIA, up 5% year to date, suggesting investors really aren't convinced so far that this, David, can take on the Goliath of AI chips. But with cloud providers and AI companies burning through billions of dollars on computing power, AMD's timing couldn't be better. The question is whether customers will be willing to risk switching from NVIDIA's proven ecosystem for potential savings from AMD.
Before we continue on with this video, I also want to point out that AMD has exclusively been selected on the contracts for the PS6, the upcoming PS6. So they also have that as far as income. And on top of that, if Microsoft is going forward with their next Xbox, they're likely to choose AMD as well, because they have been basically building chips for these consoles for quite some time. So we also have that on the table as well, and AMD's video cards as well as their processors. So there's a lot going on with AMD. It's not just big tech AI and quantum. There's also consoles and gaming PC components. There's a lot that goes into this.
I should say. Melissa?
Christina, Lisa Su is also talking about an open system yielding the best, innovation. And I guess that's sort of, she's talking her book. She wants people to be out of the NVIDIA ecosystem and be willing to use AMD chips and technology.
Right. So it's the 7th generation ROCm. That's their software platform that they also announced the 7th generation. That's an open ecosystem, which differs from CUDA, NVIDIA's closed system. But if you recall, perhaps maybe just, was it a month ago, not even, NVIDIA is finally opening up their closed ecosystem, specifically with a product called NVLink. So without getting too technical, NVIDIA is realizing that the future is open. You need to be able to take different parts from different companies, even though both companies really just want to own the entire stack and have everybody just stuck on their products. But it seems like that's not going to be the future. Chips need to either work together or else you lose market share.
And what they're saying is absolutely correct. And I want to point out something very important, particular to what she just said. There's a reason why Apple's growth has slowed down exponentially in comparison to NVIDIA, AMD, and even Palantir. It's not because Apple has bad products. It's because of exactly what she said. In order to use Apple's ecosystem, you have to use everything Apple. When the Lightning adapter was introduced in 2013, people wanted to know, why are we still using USB 2.0 in 2021 or 2022? And that's because they had a 10-year contract with Lightning, the Lightning adapter, and with the company who manufactured that. That's not a patent that necessarily that Apple completely invented. It was something that they bought. It was technology that they partnered with and bought and used. And there was a 10-year contract on the Lightning adapter, which is why they didn't go to USB 3.0 or USB-C on the phones until just a little over a year and a half ago. There's a reason for this. And because Apple requires you to use an iPhone with the MacBook or the MacBook Pro or the iMacs or the Mac Pros or the iPads, everything is all a closed system. And that system's getting frustrating and it's getting old because people want to design their own computers. They want to have their own setup. They want to use certain parts of certain companies. And that is something that's played out over the course of human history, pretty much. People might want to buy a car from Ford, but they might want to change out the audio system and customize it. Maybe you want to build a PC and you want NVIDIA graphics, but you want AMD processors, or maybe you want Intel processors and you want AMD video. There has to be options. And because Apple is a prime example of a closed loop system here and their growth is slowed exponentially, this should be an eye-opening opportunity for AMD to capitalize, to open up all of their technology and to make chips that are more efficient and to do this quickly and to capitalize on it, which is exactly what they're doing.
All right, Christina, thank you. Christina Partsinevelos. What do you make of AMD?
Only because you asked me would I rather NVIDIA or AMD, because I know that's what you were thinking, right?
I was not.
I didn't
thinking
know.
that at all.
I wasn't thinking
Either? No one?
You may
Dollar?
answer the question anyway.
AMD, I would rather have AMD. I think AMD's the wolf on the hill versus NVIDIA's the wolf at the top of the hill. I think NVIDIA has more to lose. AMD has more to gain.
I've been saying this.
You could have, right. So AMD was in a declining trend line since March of 24, convincingly broke out of that declining trend line in May this year. So I would rather, if I'm putting new money to work, I'd rather buy AMD. NVIDIA way ahead, but AMD is poised to be the biggest opportunity for them.
Well, I don't want to take it.
And that's exactly what I've been saying. NVIDIA has still room to grow. There's going to be good growth. It's going to be a great company, even better than now going forward. But AMD has more market share to scoop up. There's more potential. So I guess what I'm really saying is that there's more gains on the table for AMD if they can deliver than there would be with NVIDIA. If AMD can deliver on everything they're talking about, the stock could go to $200 in the next 6 to 12 months, which means it basically doubled since this past March. And if it happens within a year, that's double. Do we think NVIDIA is going to go to 300 plus in the next 6 to 12 months? In my opinion, I think that's kind of a little bit overzealous or exaggerative.
The other side of the birthday boy, but I'm going to anyway. So I'd rather, and the way I'm positioned is far more dollars in NVIDIA than, I was going to say Nova, we were just talking about it, than AMD. I do like Lisa Su a lot, but the valuation differential is not very big, right? So that makes me far more interested in NVIDIA over...
Yeah, well, I mentioned this. So the gross margins in NVIDIA, this has been something we've all been tracking. The company guided them down. And, since they did a couple quarters ago, from the high 70s, kind of the low 70s, they said it's going to pick up back at the end of the year. The stock really stalled out. I mean, it's really gone sideways. And, if you look at AMD and you talk about how they're going to compete with NVIDIA, it's going to be on price. AMD has already this built-in kind of ramp as far as margins are concerned over year. They went to 53% last year, 51.5% expected this year, up to like 55. If they're going to be competing on price. That's not happening. So the stock, you just mentioned valuation, it's probably too expensive, and that's already embedded in the street consensus.
Just for a quick example here to show you guys, this is the 13900K from Intel. It was released back at the end of 2022. I actually have the 13900KS, which is a specially binned version. It's a better top tier bin, which means it just can be overclocked better. It's more stable. It's a better CPU, but it's essentially the same brain, the same technology, the same chip. And when you compare that to the Ryzen 9950X, which came out at the end of 2024, near the end, so this chip is only about 8-9 months old. But when you compare them, it's 10 nanometers versus 4. The Ryzen is 4 nanometers versus 10. Now, even if we were to go look at the Intel 14900KS, which is much closer in age to the 9950, very close in age, within a year or less, you can see that Intel is still using 10 nanometers on the 14900KS, which is very close in age in comparison to AMD's 9950. Now, we're not saying that the 14900KS and the new 15900KS aren't top tier bin CPUs for gaming and performance, because they are, but we're talking about energy efficiency. And when you look at the TDP, it is 150 watts on the Core i9 14900KS. The 9950 has 170. And with everything we've just talked about, the 4nm in the 9950X Ryzen allows faster, cooler, more efficient data processing. And with 170 TDP over Intel, it proves that AMD's technology in gaming also has the potential to draw more power if needed to have higher performance. So it's the best of both worlds. And they're already doing this in the gaming world. And this is the reason why Sony has chosen them yet again for the PlayStation 6. And it's just one aspect and one example that I'm using to show you how strong AMD is versus Intel in CPUs. And in the gaming world, on GPU side of things, they're looking to take the fight to NVIDIA the same way they've already done with Intel, which is why I'm referencing that, because I have a lot of experience with building PCs and going back and forth between Intel and AMD's technology is definitely more power efficient than Intel. Not saying the processor's faster necessarily, but it is for the most part, especially the 7950 3Ds. They're insane for gaming, but they have a better TDP, smaller nanometers, like it's a smaller transistors inside the chip. So it's a much more efficient overall. And if they bring that over to servers and gaming processors and AI and all of their chips and do what Lisa Su is talking about, AMD is absolutely going to grow exponentially and explode. It's just a matter of, can they deliver with the margins that they have and still continue to grow with profitability and still compete with prices like we just heard. I'm going to show you guys how to evaluate and compare AMD's potential growth with NVIDIA. If you're enjoying how I'm breaking down these companies and the things I'm about to show you, if you're new to the market, maybe you're losing money, maybe you want to retire and don't know where to begin, and you enjoy this and want to learn more, I would love to help you turn losses into wins and show you how to beat the market and make money just like my students are on the screen. You guys can sign up for my Discord at any time. There's 2 live coaching calls a week. We trade in the live calls. You can copy my trades, take trade alerts. There's over 6 hours of video on demand teaching you the very basics all the way up to everything you need to know to trade in the market. And it's all in the Discord. You have an Ask Corey section and you'll be able to chat in different areas on different strategies. And we're in the Discord all day during market hours with ideas as they pop up. I would love to help you. It's what drives me every single day. And if you are looking to take control of your financial future, you can use the link in the information box below. I look forward to seeing you in the Discord real soon. Looking at NVIDIA, we have a price to earnings here of 46, which is a little on the high side. They're a little overvalued and their market share is already large. They can't get any bigger because that's just the way it is. They already have a massive amount, almost all of it. So it's only going to go down, which slows and stunts growth, which is why NVIDIA is pretty much not doing much price wise over the past year. In fact, it's down if we look at the last 13 or 14 months. So looking at the market cap of 3.46 trillion, we are going to divide their 12-month trailing 12-month revenue of 148. So we're looking at 346 trillion. This right here is 3.4 billion. This would be 3.46 trillion right here, divided by 148 billion, which is right here, giving us a price to sales of 23. This is honestly not that good. It's stunted growth. When we go look at AMD, and they have a market cap of 188.34 billion, 188 divided by 27.75 trailing 12 month, 27.75, we get a 6.7 price to sales. If AMD was to even achieve half of what NVIDIA has, which is possible, then that would take them to a price to sales of around 12, which means AMD could potentially double in the next 1 to 3 years, maybe sooner, maybe like 1 to 2 years. A price to sales of 6 is honestly quite low in the tech space. I would anticipate price to sales a little bit more on the 14 to 15 side of things. So really, there's a looming 3x potential on the table. If we look at Apple, we're looking at 2.93 trillion, and we're going to divide that by 400 billion. So if we do 2.93 trillion, which is right here, divided by $400 billion, right here, price to sales of 7.325. Looking at Microsoft, we have 3.53 trillion divided by 270 billion. So let's look at that. 3.53 trillion, 353, which is right here. 353 trillion divided by 270 billion gives us a price to sales of 13. So you can see that NVIDIA is 23, Microsoft is 13, somewhere between 12 and 23. 2 to 3x return is potential because they're in the same niche. They're in technology, computers, AI, hardware, and probably closer to NVIDIA than Microsoft. So likely we could see a 13 to 15 price to sales on AMD. And if they achieve that, we're looking at about a 3x return. And I would say this is likely to happen in the coming 3 to 5 years, probably 3 years, probably close to 2x in the next 1 to 3. So I would say, honestly, AMD reaching a price of $180 to $200 in the next 12 to 18 months is very reasonable, and potentially reaching a price target of 300 plus in the next 5 years if they can deliver on what they say they're trying to do. And that's what it looks like to me. It's a very big opportunity. In worst case scenario, it is highly likely by the end of the year, they'll be in the 140, 150 range. So there's still 40, 50% return this year, likely just on the analysis I've done on AMD. It's very strong, and the stock is very strong as long as they can deliver, which is a key caveat of this whole thing with AMD. And that's Lisa Su. Can she continue to deliver? In my personal opinion, I think AMD is good, but you don't want to run more than 10% of your portfolio in any one stock. So if you have AMD and it's less than 10% total, you can dollar cost average down on the bottom and up top. I use my 33-10 rule, which is what I teach in Discord. 2 in the bottom on the dip, 1 on the top. If you guys want to learn more of my AVP strategy, which is built off of hedge fund data and strategies and dark pool data, as well as looking inside the candlesticks for order and flow and volume footprint, I teach all of that in the Discord if you want to make the profits that you're seeing on the screen of my current students. Some students have went from 300,000 to 800,000 in 5 months, and other students have taken their accounts from 400,000 to $1 million in just under a year. I also have students with smaller accounts that have grown from 8,000 to 30,000 plus in 6 to 8 months, and other students that have done even better than that. It just depends on the individual and your goals on investing, but I can help you grow, and I would love to help you be able to take control of your financial future. If you're looking to do just that, I'm driven every single day to help people just like you. You guys can sign up for the Discord anytime. Links in the information box below. I look forward to seeing you on the next video or upload, and of course, in the Discord real soon. Take care, fam.